Hello, everyone. Welcome to the official review of the 2023 F1 season. This time around, I have with me the friend of the channel, Wimbo Formula One. Wimbo, welcome. How are you? And what's your first take? Let's begin as soon as possible. What's your first take after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix? What was your first reaction when Max Verstappen crossed ultimately when Max Verstappen crossed the finish line?
Um, I thought the race was pretty boring.
Yeah.
I expected a little bit more fireworks between Ferrari and Mercedes and Aston Martin and McLaren and Williams and AlphaTauri. Those are the narratives that I was looking forward to, and you know, uh, I didn't see any spicy battles between any of the drivers of those teams. It was all decided. In other places, for instance, Checo Perez getting a 5-second penalty.
Yeah.
That sort of decided the fate of Mercedes being P2 and Ferrari being P3.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, hi guys, all of you who've tuned in. Sorry, Wimbo, I just caught you off guard there. First of all, I think I should congratulate you as well. We'll get back to the race as well as the season. I was just trying to, just joking around a bit. So first of all, congratulations to get your channel monetized. Well,
Thank you.
now you joined the big leagues of the big YouTube
Yeah.
content creators. So congratulations for that, and also congratulations for Max and Red Bull winning the title. I mean, I know being Dutch, you're a huge Max Verstappen fan. So yeah, that's why actually I asked you when Max crossed the finish line. That's 19 wins. How did it feel? That's why that was the primary premise behind me asking that question.
Well, um, the race winner wasn't the biggest narrative of the race, so yeah, I just thought it was nice,
What's your take on
for him to
the
win.
what's your take on the very first lap battle between Max and Charles?
I love how they give each other space. I there's hardly ever any bad faith between them.
Yeah, it makes a lot of
Um,
difference.
I'd love to see Charles Leclerc being a little bit more feisty. I don't think. See if he would get into those battles with Lando Norris. Um, I think Lando would be a tougher cookie to handle for
Yeah,
Max.
probably. I think one thing that actually led to Charles being a bit more conceding was I think he was flying the Ferrari flag in the first race. He had to ensure that Ferrari can secure P2. That was why he was a bit circumspect. And I mean, I think everyone knew that even if he got the jump on Max on the first lap, Max will ultimately just cross overtake him in a lap or two. So it didn't really make much sense for him as well. So
No.
maybe that played a role because I mean Charles is feisty as a wheel to wheel racer,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Let's hope next year they'll have a proper title battle.
Ah,
And
fingers
you just
crossed.
said that I'm a big Max fan, but after Max winning three in a row, I could totally live with Ferrari and Leclerc winning a title.
I don't think anyone will mind if Charles Leclerc wins the title.
No, I mean Ferrari's a magnificent team, so much history, and I think it would be a great boost for F1 as well
Yeah.
after two pretty mediocre seasons.
Two. When was the last time
Yes,
Ferrari had a good season?
no, no. I mean two mediocre seasons of F1 as a whole.
Yeah.
After 2021, we had a huge title battle, and then 22 and 23, they were mediocre, as in
Action.
the tension for uh, the titles.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I think the first reaction that I had, I mean, I even tweeted about it. I just hope we don't have Red Bull having the same kind of advantage because it's almost unfair to everyone else. Because Max will just, I think he'll just walk through the championship again if he has something similar to this next time around as well. So, first of all, welcome to everyone, whoever is currently tuning in. I think for before we begin and talk about the 2023 F1 season and the official review, I just have one. Actually, I have two requests. First, if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. If you're from Wimbo's channel, again, please hit that subscribe button. And of course,
Hmm.
like the video as well. So, Wimbo, I think we've exchanged a few pleasantries now. Let's begin with the official review of the 2023 F1 season. And I think first, I think I've shared with you the list as well. So first of all,
Yeah.
the first thing that I wanted to talk about, this might be a bit, um what's the word to use? A bit expected choice in this particular case or particular category. So first of all, we are starting with the driver of the season. Who are you going with? Who is your pick for the driver of the season?
Max Verstappen.
Yeah, see,
No, but that guy done nothing wrong all season.
yeah,
You know, we've seen him spin and still win. We've seen him um, fight with his engineer to get things the way he wants them. Um, but no no silly things like practice starts in the wrong place or missing a bollard when going into the pit lane or um, just
no silly
near enough
mistakes.
perfect.
Basically, it was perfection. I think I agree
Yeah.
with you on that. The thing is, just before we started this whole recording, I was first recording another video. It was on the top 10 drivers for the 2023 F1 season. Now, just plugging in case you guys haven't, in case you guys haven't watched that one, please do that as well after this one. Now, one thing that I saw was it was a very pretty much a standard line. You could see that in the entire season, except probably the error in Singapore where he messed up the qualifying. He should have been in Q3, but he messed that up. Other than that, throughout the season, you cannot find too many faults in a season. And look, there are drivers that win. There are drivers that have this ability to be consistent and ruthless. But winning 19 races in a season, that's that's ridiculous. He has a 10 race win streak that is the best win streak in F1. He's currently on a 7 race win streak that is, I think, fourth highest. There is a 10 race win streak for Max. There is a 9 race win streak for Seb. There is a 7 race win streak for Alberto Ascari, Michael Schumacher, and Max Verstappen.
And I think Rosberg had 7 as well.
Yeah, Rosberg as well. So these are the 4 drivers that have 7 wins. And he's turned it into a complete joke. He's turning up to every race and winning it. And this kind of dominance I have not seen. Maybe
Well,
Seb.
what I think
Yeah,
is so impressive is uh, the driver before Max Verstappen being dominant was Lewis Hamilton.
yeah,
Now, when he started the season, you could see Valtteri Bottas winning 1 or 2 races in the first 3, 4 races of the season, and that was because Lewis Hamilton wasn't completely focused and there yet. And then, he started getting into a rhythm, and then usually after the summer break, he would just be on it
yeah.
and then win the championship. And then the last 2 races of the season, when the pressure was all gone, um,
Everything was sealed.
yes, but Lewis Hamilton was less on point then.
Yeah,
And then you could see Max Verstappen winning races or other drivers getting those wins. But Max Verstappen has been um, 100% focused for most of the races, and in the last 2 races, he was still 98% focused.
yeah. And it's a
And
lot.
and
I mean, it's a lot.
that makes him the best driver of this season.
I think, yeah. And I think that there is actually a debate to be had when it comes to, is it Max being this dominant or is it the Red Bull car being this dominant? Because
No, it's a culmination of all
no, no,
factors.
that's fine. That's fine. But when it
If
comes
if
to,
if if Red Bull had a strategic team like Ferrari has, then he wouldn't have won all those races. He would have won a few less.
for sure, for
And
sure.
and if he had a different engineer, then maybe some races he would have a less than perfect setup, and he
Hmm.
wouldn't be able to get the car from a bad starting position to a win.
True. I think the races he won
Uh,
in Austin, it was primarily down to everything being perfect. He didn't really have the kind of advantage in terms of performance in that particular race, but he still got it done. So yeah,
yeah,
I think this is a perfect segue actually from our first topic for the driver of the season to what would you consider as the team of the season?
yeah, it has to be Red Bull because yeah, we talked about that just now.
Yeah,
Um, they've been on it all season long.
yeah.
Um,
I think there is actually a question to be asked in this particular case. If we talk about the car RB19 and if we compare it with Mercedes in 2014, 15, 16, there is actually a debate to be had around which car was more dominant. But when you talk about the team overall, I think you kind of settle that debate because Red Bull does not have off days, and I think Mercedes had those
well,
off days.
what you need to look at is what was all in place uh, in those dominant years of Mercedes.
Yeah,
Um, the party modes, they were still there.
yeah,
Mercedes had uh, they had the
rocket ship.
best hybrid V6 engine, and all the other teams with all the other uh, engines in it, they needed to catch up.
Yeah,
So that took a few years. Then when one when the team started getting close, Mercedes introduced the DAS system, and that gave them an opportunity to warm their tires better in 2020.
yeah,
Um, all those things are gone,
true.
and with the budget cap in place, you know, if somebody makes a mistake in in an upgrade,
Yeah,
then usually they would just have another upgrade and another one sitting ready, and they could just swap them. They could put on 3 upgrades a weekend. That's gone as well. So the fact that Red Bull has been this dominant with all these restrictions in place makes it actually even more
you know
of
you're
an
missing
achievement.
one more thing when it comes to Mercedes that is gone. The personnel, a lot of them have left. A lot of them have gone to Aston Martin. Eric Blandon, I think his name is. He has left. Mike Elliott left. Then, if you go back to 2014, 15, 16, the man that made the turbo hybrid, uh, Jeff, I'm forgetting his name. Jeff
I think it's
Willis.
Mike,
Jeff Willis
but
and Aldo Costa.
Mike Cowell is gone as
Mike
well,
Cowell is also gone. So there are
and he
five
works
to
for
six. Yeah,
Red Bull Powertrain
yeah,
now.
he's working with Red Bull Powertrains now. And you take all of these members that have left the team.
And then James Vowles is with Williams.
Oh yeah, and even he's left.
That's another big one.
Who knows where Shavlin goes next season? I mean, even if he stays, that's also a question mark
Oh,
now. I think when it comes to Mercedes, one of the major issues that the team has had is holding on to talent. They've lost a lot of people. I think
yeah,
this is something I'm working on actually. This is also a part of a video that what happened to Mercedes, why it was winning then, why it is not winning now. So yes, that is something we'll come back to. Now, when we talk about the team of the season, I think in my view as well, Red Bull kind of. I think what Red Bull has showed this season is that when we play these video games or something, there's a fighter. Even in Mortal Kombat, there are certain levels. It's agility, speed, endurance, and stuff like that. When it comes to Red Bull, everything is at 100%. There's no flaw. Where are you going to target? And that even in the power unit, the Honda power unit is quite good. So when you take all of that into consideration, it's going to be a tough task to beat them. So yeah, now these two were a bit expected. Let's be fair. Now coming to the more interesting ones. First of all, let's talk about the driver that impressed you the most this season. Now, when I talk about
okay,
this, there's one thing I wanted to clarify first. When I talk about impressed you the most, it's what was your perception of the driver beforehand, and what he did afterwards in the season, and
Yeah.
that's where it comes down to. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The driver that impressed me the most was Alex Albon.
Uh yeah.
He put that Williams car in places where nobody expected it. I'm not a technical YouTuber, but I do follow upgrades, and at one point we saw the Williams floor and it was completely smooth, whereas the Red Bull floor had all these little bits of furniture on it,
Yeah.
and it made the Williams car really fast in a straight line, but terrible to drive in the corners. But Alex Albon managed, and not sure how many points he scored, 17, 18,
26,
16.
27, something like that.
Yeah.
A lot, basically.
So, that's definitely an achievement,
Yeah.
100%.
do,
Um,
do you think
and
your uh, perception of Alex Albon has grown over the years, or were you expecting something like this from him when he came back to Williams?
well, there are teams that if you support one driver, then you hate the teammate.
Okay.
Yes, like Russell is hated now. A lot
Yeah.
of Charles Leclerc fans, they hate
Carlos.
Sainz. Um, but the Dutch fans, they embrace the teammates that Max has. So Checo is popular. Daniel Ricciardo was mega popular. Gasly was popular. Albon was popular. We root for those guys, and even if they leave, even if they don't succeed, we keep rooting for them.
Yeah.
Because they've been part of Max's team. And yeah, Alex Albon, that last season with Red Bull, when he had to overtake an Alpha Tauri, and
Why are they fighting
it
so
didn't
much?
it didn't go yeah, it didn't go so smoothly, and he says, "Oh, they're fighting me so hard."
Yeah.
It was for his own interest to not keep going in 2021, because he was devastated by how things went.
Yeah.
And
Having Max as a teammate can do this to you.
yes, and you know, Adrian Newey has admitted that the 2020 car, um, they went down the wrong path, and because Max was still fast with that car,
Yeah.
they didn't notice it. And obviously, Alex Albon, who said in podcasts that he likes a pointy nose and a loose rear, but not as much as Max can handle. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, when he was reserve driver, he done a hell of a job, which sort of helped Max in 2021.
Yeah.
And then I was delighted that he had that seat at Williams, but I was always hoping that with him being Thai and having connections with Red Bull, that he could come back.
Hmm.
But that he's got a long-term contract with Williams, so
Yeah.
that's not likely to happen
Still a
anymore.
couple of years, I think. Till 25. I think it's a contract till
Yeah,
25.
contracts mean nothing,
No, but
for
Williams
a team
contracts
like
are a
Red
bit
Bull.
of a pain in the ass. I think George Russell was the first to find that out when he wasn't able to, leave the team.
Do
Apparently.
do you think do you think if Toto had wanted George Russell back, then he wouldn't have gotten him?
Look, I don't think Toto
I
wanted George Russell to
No,
join
because
Lewis.
Lewis Hamilton wanted Bottas. He still wants Bottas.
Yeah, he does. I think Toto was in a situation in 2021 where his driver was close to securing, where his star driver was close to securing his eighth title. And if Lewis had done that, there's a very high possibility that Lewis would have left the team.
Yeah.
And if Lewis did leave the team, Mercedes would have been without its star driver. And at that particular time, Toto had to make a choice because Lewis was not willing to commit beyond a couple of years. And even if he did commit, if he retires, and what does it mean anyway? That's why he ultimately had to go ahead and sign George. Otherwise, he would not have done that. Otherwise, he would have actually, I think something similar to what happened to Ocon would have happened to him as well. There's no point, right? One thing when it comes to Alex, Would you? What's his upper bound limit in your view? Can he be a title contender?
Yeah, well, I think 15 drivers on the grid with the right car can be a title contender.
No, no,
You
that's
know,
fine. If we were going to put them in a rocket ship, that's an entirely different thing. When I talk about the title contenders, I talk about the elite drivers in F1, like Max, Charles, Lewis, Lando, George to a certain extent. Do you think he
well,
belongs in that
I think
category?
as for driving style and I think he'd be suited next to Max. But then mentally, I think Checo is a lot stronger because he's been through a lot and he's still there.
Yeah.
And I think he'll finish the whole season next season, Checo Perez.
Checo. I'm actually slightly frustrated about it because Jason was willing to bet me that Checo will not complete the season with Red Bull, and I was quite adamant. It was, I think, 5 races left when we had this live reaction of the race, and he was quite adamant that Checo will not make it to the end of the season, and I just didn't see the point. But then after Ricciardo ended up having that race in Mexico, even I was having second thoughts that maybe there's a possibility that Red Bull might pull the trigger. That hasn't happened. Next season, I'm not entirely sure. I think after the race in Abu Dhabi, where Sonoda kind of outclassed Daniel, I think the Red Bull is probably looking at any other option than the three drivers that they have right now as a possible teammate for Max. So maybe he'll complete the next season.
Yeah, in 25.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So maybe Sergio will complete the season, but then beyond that, who knows? It might be. I don't know.
I know, but people have been pushing Checo out of that seat for a while now, for a couple of years. And I've seen plenty of videos from big YouTubers saying that oh, Checo is out and
I think
Daniel
Checo.
Ricciardo is going to be in that seat. And then Tsunoda had a couple of good races, and then Tsunoda was in that seat. And then they were talking about Norris. Norris is going to go in that seat because contract mean nothing. And I've seen plenty of photoshopped heads on
Sergio's
Checo Perez's
overalls.
body.
Look, if you ask me,
I made a video about Checo Perez that I was hoping for him to find a seat like Bottas found a less pressured seat.
yeah,
You know, I think I put him in Haas or Williams.
yeah,
Instead of Kevin Magnussen or
Logan,
Logan
yeah,
Sargent. Where he can just be on the grid, still have his big sponsor being happy, uh, that small team being happy with the 15-30 million that he brings along, and less pressure for Checo
yeah.
because he's had a rough season. You know, all these qualifying sessions that went wrong, and all the times he didn't get into Q3, and crashes in his home race, and
So many
unnecessary
things.
crashes because he was so wild. That he still made it to P2 is that's quite an achievement as well.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the fact that there was no concrete second fastest car.
Yeah.
Every race there was something different. It was Aston, Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren. So that's kind of what
So
helped.
that's how Mercedes got their second place in the
Yeah,
championship as well.
yeah. They were the more reliable and probably the more consistent third fastest car that ended up
Yeah.
being the second fastest car.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think yes. I think in my view, when we talk about Alex, I think he's just when we talk about these drivers, these elite talents. I think Albon is probably one level below that. I think he falls in the category of Gasly, Ocon. I think these three. These are the just one level below your top tier drivers that include Lewis, Max, Lando, and others. That's where I kind of
Yeah.
see him being. I think Science also
I rate Albon higher than Ocon and higher than
Gasly.
mm,
Hmm.
see, I rate Gasly higher than Ocon as well.
Yeah. So. I think for me it comes down to one very simple thing: who is your benchmark, right? Because for this entire season, Albon's benchmark has been Logan Sargent. And while I think Logan is decent, I've seen him in Formula 2.
No, I
Yeah.
haven't even looked at what Albon did against his teammate because he was never a factor.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I always compared Albon to what he'd done against the other midfield teams
Yeah.
and how often he was ahead of much quicker cars.
But then how do we define if that car is quicker than the Williams?
Because you can see it in race trims and you can see it
That
in
is
all the
how,
data. See, I
yeah, that is how
when
the
I watched
driver is making that car look. That is something that I've always felt, because I think Yuki made.
no, but when the race does these statistics, when you see these lines of the difference between the top team, you know, Red Bull 0%, and then Ferrari, Mercedes, or whatever. It all depends on what race you're watching.
Mhm.
Then you could see Williams at a certain point,
Yeah, most of the time it's
and
wrong. I'll I can guarantee you that they had, uh I think it was Monza or what race, they had Williams as the slowest car, and I think Albon qualified in top 10. So that was, I mean, it's a bit like,
that's all Albon.
yeah, I disagree.
The race is never wrong.
Huh?
That's the best. The race is never
It's
wrong.
not from the race, right? It's from the AWS data. That is who is supplying them. They are not doing it unilaterally. They're basically taking a third party data through which they
Okay.
kind of
Well,
represent that.
is it AWS?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, they're never wrong either.
Oh, come on. I've seen them being wrong far too many times right now.
No. I think you're just you think you know everything better. That's your problem.
Oh yeah, I'm a pretentious guy.
No, but listen, Sportskeeda
Yeah,
or the race.
yeah. Sports kid any day. Come on.
Okay, if you say so.
Yeah. Anyhow, I think, yeah. You went with Alex Albon, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, in my case, it was. I think I'll say it's Oscar Piastri. I think it
Mm.
was. Look, I expected him to do well. I didn't expect him to do this well. And while if I talk about it on the race by race basis, I think Lando dominated him overall. If you look at the entire season, because Lando was more consistent, and he kind of, I think the experience showed. But there are a few things that Oscar is doing so well that I actually, I have a feeling that Oscar might be a bit of a thorn in the side of Lando next season, because next season he'll have, probably the biggest tool is that he'll know each and every track. This season that has been a big issue for him, because a lot of the races he's been to for the first time. And you know why I talked about the upper bound limit? I think Oscar can be a future world champion. That is where I kind of see him being. I don't see that with Alex, at least for now, unless he proves me wrong. Because I've seen his entire junior career. He's always been a step behind George and Lando when in Formula 2. And Charles completely dominated him before that. So that's where
Yeah.
I tend to, land on when it comes to these
Yeah,
guys.
he's not that young anymore either, Alex Albon.
He's 27,
He,
I think.
I think out of that group that you just
Yeah,
mentioned, George and Norris and um, Max, and he's always
couple of
year or
years.
2 years older.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
28, I think.
yeah.
Max is 25, 26, something like
Max
that.
is 26,
Yeah,
and Leclerc as well because they
they
have
are
their
all the same
birthdays within
age.
2 weeks from each other.
Yeah, and Leclerc is 26, Ocon is 26, George is a year younger, and Lando
Yeah,
is 2 years younger. Lando is 23,
yeah.
Oscar is 22. So they are all an year or two apart.
But no, I agree that Oscar Piastri has had a really good season, and the things that went wrong with him, like not being able to look after the tires, uh,
They can be learned.
that can be learned, and it just makes total sense that if you're driving on a track that you've never driven before, in a big, massive F1 car with all the downforce, with all the speed, that you're not doing it as good as your teammate
True.
who's been in that car for 4 years.
Yeah.
So that all makes sense. But what I really like about Oscar Piastri is that he didn't back down to any of the fights with Lewis Hamilton a couple of times, or Fernando Alonso, or Yuki Tsunoda. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's in front of him. He's not as wild in his rookie season as Max was at the time,
Yeah, but
because
you'll expect that, right?
he really didn't give a shit about anything. But yeah, so I'm definitely impressed with Oscar Piastri, and yeah, he's as cool as a cucumber. You don't hear him swearing on the radio, or you know, kicking stuff or throwing stuff.
I think he's
So
got that edgy side in him, but he's kept things quiet because of what happened last season. He understood that the way he left Alpine,
I
it
I think it's his character.
it is, but I've seen him being a bit belligerent on team radios in Formula 2 in his first campaign when he
Okay,
was winning. It wasn't as if he was, I mean, he was still something similar, but he was still quite vocal. This year, he has made sure that he proves himself, but he's not ruffled too many feathers because I think when he came into the team, there were a lot of people that felt what happened to Daniel could happen to him as well. Now, while I did not think that, I did not expect that Oscar will be. I think I think in which race was it? Where it was too hot? Qatar. I think it was Qatar. Where it was
yeah,
too hot, right? I think
yeah,
what he did in Qatar and also in Spa, where he was, I think, on pole or on the front row in the sprint. I think those races showed that the talent is definitely there, and I think maybe next season we'll see if McLaren has a competitive car. I think we're going to see a lot of fireworks at McLaren specifically
yeah,
between Lando and Oscar. Yeah. And again, in my view, definitely one guy who I think will be a future world champion in the right car. For sure. He
yeah,
is something special. Yeah. Okay, now coming now from the driver coming to the team. Which team impressed you the most?
yeah. Well, the step that Williams made
Mhm.
from being last to seventh,
Yeah.
that's impressive, and I think it's mostly down to James Vowles.
Yeah.
I I just love how that man speaks. How he yeah, a question is asked and he just rants in perfect English without hesitation.
And there's a lot of
So yeah,
confidence there when he talks
yeah,
and understanding. He
and
knows what he's
you
talking
can
about.
and he you can tell he's really really passionate about it.
Yeah.
I think he does a race review on his own channel, on the Williams
Yeah.
channel, every and after every race, and yeah, I don't watch it every time, but sometimes I do, and you can just see the passion coming off him, and I think that makes drivers drive better. And I also firmly believe that even though Logan Sargent had not a great season, he will be in that seat next season, and will have the same grid for 2 years in a row, which has never happened.
Yeah. I think it's not the same grid though, right? Because we started the season with Nick DeVries.
Well, I mean the same grid as that we finished it with.
Yeah. I think that will be the first time in a long time now. And yeah, I think
I think somebody asked, the virtual stat man, Sean Kelly.
he's a handful, isn't he?
Yeah, but they asked him on Twitter, and he said, it'll be the first time that the same grid
Is
will
it?
start.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's actually interesting.
So I'd be disappointed in James Vowles if he, in the course of the next couple of months, there'll be news saying Williams has decided not to go ahead with Logan Sargent,
But who else are
and
they
they're
going to
putting.
go with? Frederick
Hmm?
Vesti? I mean, who else are they going to go with?
Yeah, Mercedes Junior.
He's
Yeah.
not good. Sorry, I shouldn't be that brash about it, but I'm not too high on Frederick Vesti. The way his
Okay.
season went and all in Formula 2, it's fine, but overall, whatever I've seen, I don't rate him that highly, and I don't think even Mercedes does, because before this season we haven't heard about him, and he's been part of the program since forever, 3 4 years. So yeah. Anyhow, I think I agree with you on one thing, that James Bowles. I think again, what he did with Logan is interesting. What he also did was he was able to hire Nick Fry from Alpine. Now they have a technical director that Alpine doesn't, and we'll get to Alpine later in the video. Uh, I think that is one of the more interesting points, because I actually saw an interview yesterday on the race, where Nick Fry actually talked about how Dorilton Capital, that is actually the parent group for Williams right now, how they are planning to invest a lot, and having James in the team, I think he might be the right guy to maybe bring the team up to at least a midfield level from where it was earlier, because there have been quite a few years where Williams has been nowhere. So yeah, I think I
Yeah.
agree with you on that. That in a way, I think him joining the team has been a major change. I won't put it entirely on him, but his role is something you cannot deny.
Well, going from Claire Williams to Just Capito was already an improvement.
Yeah,
And then I was surprised that there was a new boss already,
yeah.
and that turned out to be even better.
I think this is a big scalp for Williams. I hope they do well, because the team had a great. It was they. There are some teams which, if they have a good result, there is a feel good feeling kind of there from these particular teams. When William does well, everyone is happy. When Ferrari does
Hmm.
well, everyone is happy. So
Yeah.
these teams being
When
successful.
Red Bull does well, everybody hates them.
Oh, not everybody.
No.
Yeah. Anyhow, coming to now, in my case, I think I'm not going with Williams, because I feel what McLaren did this season, I think it's unprecedented. Being the slowest car, roughly the slowest car, or maybe a back marker, whatever we call it, for the first 7 8 races, and then shooting right to the front of the grid, securing. I think they securing front rows, maybe not pole positions, winning a sprint race, multiple podiums, P4. That's a lot of success after almost throwing away 30% of the season. And I think if we take all of these things into consideration, and you look at the kind of jump that they've made, very impressive, very impressive. And maybe one of the teams that Red Bull will be the most worried next season, because it's not only that the car is great operationally as well. Andrea Stella, and another guy that has taken up the role, he's very clear about a few things. He does not want his drivers tangling against each other. He was quite firm against both of them at Monza, when I think Norris and Oscar had a slight contact when he came out of the pits. And I think you need that kind of character there, because he'll have a bigger challenge next season. So yes,
Yeah.
let's see. I think for me, probably the team that has impressed me the most.
Well, I did a podcast with Wheel Sports
Yeah,
very early in the season, and I talked about how with these seasons being so long, um, you'd see teams that are really bad now improve massively, and you see teams that are really good now drop away. And in the end, it was McLaren that made a huge step forward,
yeah,
and actually Aston Martin that dropped away. Um, and Ferrari's been up and down as well, and so has Mercedes.
yeah,
I mean, the results that Lewis Hamilton coming in P8 and P9 the last two races, that would cost you a constructor's point big time in a normal season.
yeah,
So I think next year it'll all come down to who has the best consistency. And I think with the path that Ferrari has been taking, with Fred Vasseur in the lead, um, that this season they're edging out they're edging out their problems. They're edging out their their biggest
Yeah.
problems, and I think you'll see the benefit of that. So I think it's going to be a title battle between Red Bull and Ferrari next season, and McLaren will have a hand in it.
Hmm.
But all these teams they reach a plateau in their development at some point, and then it becomes really hard.
Yeah.
And I don't see how McLaren with just started in their they're going to start in their new wind tunnel next season. I
Yeah.
think uh, how they can outdevelop the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari and Red Bull.
Yeah. And Aston Martin.
So and Aston Martin as
Yeah.
well.
They have
Yeah.
their own wind tunnel as well. I think it's interesting. It's not straightforward right now. I think whatever I think it was I think you did the preview with me only maybe this season when you talked about this. I don't remember. I probably did it with you or maybe with someone else. But I think this was something we talked about when in during preseason we specifically talked about Fernando Alonso being a race winner this season. That didn't happen,
No.
but he came close. At least the he got a lot of podiums to show, so that was there. But yes, I think
Well, there's always a lot of recency bias going on, you know. So
mm,
so we probably talked about this after Fernando came in second.
no, no, no. It was preseason. I remember it.
Was it
Yeah,
preseason?
I was
No.
tooting the horn of Fernando Alonso being on the podium. No, of him winning a race, and well, at least he got a few podiums as well. I mean, I
Okay.
expected
Well,
Aston to do
if it
well.
was preseason, then it wasn't a recency bias
Yeah, I think
because he was at Alpine the year before.
yeah. So that was the case. Anyhow, now coming to the next one. I think we've talked about the team that impressed us the most and even the
Yeah.
driver that did that. Now let's go to the other side. Which driver was the most disappointing in your view?
Kevin Magnussen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
He had an invisible season. I can't remember one single overtake, one single qualifying session, one single result that I thought, hey, there's K Mag.
Yeah.
Nothing. Completely nothing.
He got smashed
And
big
I
time.
I made a short
I
video.
saw.
Every once in a while I get an idea for a short video. So I'll explain for the people that haven't watched it. Nico Hulkenberg destroyed Kevin Magnussen. Yes?
Yeah.
But Kevin Magnussen
Destroyed Mick Schumacher.
destroyed Mick Schumacher the year before. And Mick Schumacher destroyed
Nikita
Nikita
Mazepin.
Mazepin the year before. So, oh my God, how bad was Nikita Mazepin?
I think I think everyone wants to, and one interesting stat, Nikita Mazepin beat Guan Yu Zhou in Formula 2. So
Okay.
so how bad is Joe Guan Yu in that case? I mean,
Yeah.
uh,
I don't watch Formula 2.
I didn't used to, but I
I
think
have
the
an,
first time I did was Charles Leclerc, his season. There was a lot of
my,
hype
my,
behind him.
my obsession with F1 is enough.
I can understand that. I started watching Formula 2. I think it was the first race where I think Charles Leclerc pitted during a sprint race and then came back, overtook, I think, 15, 20 cars in 5 or 6 laps and won the race. And like, who the hell is this
Okay.
kid? And yeah, he was the one that actually, I think till date, I've seen George win Formula 2. I've seen Oscar win Formula 2. Who else? I think there have been a few standout drivers, but no one has been as dominant and as and no one has stood out as much as Charles did in his first season.
Did you know that Max Verstappen never won a race in F2?
Yeah, I did.
That's for the people at home
Yeah,
to think about.
yeah, he didn't race.
So, don't give it away.
Oh no, look, everyone knows. I think everyone. I think it was Formula 3. He was third
So
behind.
your audience knows these things.
Yeah, my audience is
That
very.
Max Verstappen went from European F3 straight into
They
F1.
everyone knows, and my audience is very educated in that aspect.
Hmm.
Even though the channel's name
Well,
is Casual F1 Fan.
my audience is just really nice.
Yeah,
So
see, both work. I'd like I'd love the nice and educated audience. I don't mind. Guys, anyone who's watching, please hit the subscribe button. So yeah, I think coming back, what were we talking about? The
We're talking
most
about the biggest
disappointing
disappointment.
driver.
So I had Kevin Magnussen because he did nothing impressive all season.
Yeah,
Like a close second would be Valtteri
I
Bottas,
agree.
but I think he made Q3 a few times.
I think Magnussen also did, but I agree with you entirely because you know what happens is I tend to do this driver rating videos as well as the driver rating articles for my website. And
Yeah,
after the first half of the season, I knew what I was going to write about Hulkenberg's weekend and what I was going to write about Magnussen's weekend. It was very simple. Hulkenberg qualified well, then fell down like a stone throughout the race. Magnussen performed poorly in qualifying and went nowhere. And that was the two drivers for almost, I think, 60 or 70% of the season was this for the two
yeah,
drivers. I look. I always expected Hulkenberg to beat Magnussen. I didn't really have much doubt around that. I've seen Hulkenberg race since 2005, 2006, so I've seen how
yeah,
talented he is. And but what surprised me was being half a second quicker, being a second quicker. That's surprising. I don't know what happened. Maybe Hulkenberg is more suited to these cars, or Magnussen is way off. But yeah, it was disappointing.
yeah.
In my view, when I talk about the driver that was the most disappointing, I think it's George Russell. Did you know? By the way,
I
one
have him as a reserve
you
actually,
have him as a
as a reserve.
okay. In case
Yeah,
in case I would have picked someone else, you would have picked George.
yeah,
So, fun fact: more than 5 podiums. I don't know. It was total. I think it was 7 or 8 podiums total in all that George Russell has missed this season, either due to his
yeah,
mistakes or due to bad luck. I think you also did a video on him being unlucky or something like this,
yeah,
right? And when you have that kind of a season, I think he was around 60, 70 points behind Lewis overall. And when you have that kind of a season, when you make these many mistakes, how can it not be a disappointing season? I mean, one can't make sense of it. I don't know what happened. I think it was what happened last season was everything came to him a little too easy. He had set up a certain process in place in during Williams, and when he moved to Mercedes, everything worked, and it should ideally because whatever processes you set, they're quite best practices, so they will tend to work. What happened this season was very early in the season he realized that he was not going to win the championship. There was not going to be any battle, so he risked too much in a lot of races, and I think we saw that. Singapore was a prime
yeah.
example.
My
Yeah.
my theory, as an amateur psychologist, is that that first DNF that really hurt him. That came out of nowhere.
Which one?
It was yeah, one of the first races.
Australia.
He
Yeah.
he had a technical
Yeah.
DNF. An engine just blowing up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if you're competing against a 7-time world champion and you beat him the year before, and you want to do it again, I think that was a bit of a blow. And then after that, probably where last year he was quite fortunate with some of the safety cars. He was unfortunate with some of the safety cars,
Yeah.
and then he started overdriving the car. And every time he came under pressure, he was doing silly things. Like in Monaco, he saw
Went straight on.
uh,
Yeah.
yes, but
Mirabel.
there was a driver in front of him that went
No,
off,
no, no.
and then he was.
Yes, it was some. It was in the wets. They had all come
I
out on
think it was an
intermediates.
Alfa Romeo that went off, and he was shook by it, and then he went off as well,
Yeah.
and then he came back on track and he hit
Yeah.
Perez.
That was funny actually.
And I've seen another video. I think it was Tomo that made a video about George
Yeah.
Russell, and he listed like 4 or 5 of these situations where Russell was under pressure to get a good result, and then bin it, like in Singapore.
Yeah. I think we've talked about three already. Vegas, he could have been on podium. Singapore, Monaco. These are three. And there
Yeah.
are, I think in Australia as well, he would have been on podium if not for for the power unit issues. Then there was one in Silverstone. Then there are a few others as well. I can't recall right now. And that is something. Look, it takes a toll on your brain as well, because these many, and people start talking about it. These many errors is something you don't really see and don't expect from someone who's expected to, you know, once Lewis leaves, he is expected to take over from the team. Yeah. What's your take?
Well,
One thing, by the way.
I,
Sorry, go
I don't
ahead.
want to drag Max Verstappen in everything uh, what we're talking about,
Yeah,
but we haven't talked about him for a while, so it's okay.
yeah.
Um, but in 2018, Max started, and he felt that the car wasn't good enough, and he was in Formula One a couple of years, and he started getting really wild. He messed up his Monaco free practice 3, so he couldn't qualify, and he had this
China.
incident with Vettel in China, and um, he got yelled at, from by his father and by Helmut Marko, and they were like, "You don't have to be on top every single session."
Yeah.
And that's the moment when
The
he
switch
turned the
flipped. Yeah,
switch, and he's been consistent ever since.
yeah.
Obviously there's been incidents and stuff. Like, I was there in Spa in 2019
The
when
start.
he didn't make it to turn
Yeah,
one. Um, but yeah, to have so much bad luck and technical DNFs because of the Renault engine beneath you, to pull out that sort of consistency, it just shows how mentally strong Max is.
yeah. No, that's true. That's
And
true.
even the 2021 season, he went from a 32-point lead to a 6-point deficit in 2 races
Yeah,
with Silverstone and Hungary. And then he kept pumping in these wins again
yeah.
on his own. And so if you compare, Russell, his mentality to Max's, then no, where Russell is now, he'll never be a world champion, but it can change.
I think he needs to start being a bit more punchy at Mercedes, because there's one trend that I think you also saw it. I shared it on Twitter. There is this entire trend that whenever a massive upgrade is introduced by Mercedes, all of a sudden the form switches. Lewis is around half a second or maybe even a second quicker than George, and George takes 2 to 3 races to get to that particular level. It happened twice this season. It happened in Monaco, it happened in Austin. And if you see the 4 races before that, George outqualified Lewis comfortably. And what that means, there are two aspects to this. One is that George finds it hard to adapt to a new car. The second is car being more the new upgrades being more towards Lewis's driving style. And look, if the team is favoring Lewis, it's fine. But if the second driver has to adapt this much, then there's something wrong. And maybe George needs to speak up now, because look, his talent, he's also proven himself. There's no doubt about it. He's a pretty good talent. In terms of having a good car, he'll do a good job. He won a race last season. The thing is, if he continues to get bullied by Lewis in the same team, it's you you're wasting your years. You can't really continue plus it also hurts your legacy. At the end of the day, Lewis will leave in a year or so. George still has 10 years to go. It will hurt your legacy in that sense.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think
but
he needs to be a bit more punchy. Needs to talk to Rosberg a bit.
well, I think he's too diplomatic. Whenever he feels like a strategy call can go his way, he'll call it out carefully, and you know he has all these little plans.
You know what hurts for him is he came to the team and he did not want to ruffle a few feathers, because it was still Lewis's team. He came in as a prodigy and he did well. He was able to get good results and everything was fine. What has happened is, by the second season, the car is still there, but Lewis has started to understand that maybe the challenge is bigger, and that is slowly starting to hurt him now. And he needs
Yeah,
to take the next step, which
But it's definitely something to look at next year
for sure.
because in a new season, new testing, new cars, W15.
Who knows?
Uh, yeah,
Plus, one thing we still forget, it was 11-11 in qualifying. There's nothing to
yeah,
choose from. And if he's able to
no,
sort out his mistakes, look, out of 8 podiums, imagine if he secured 2 to 3 of them. He would have even matched Lewis in terms of points. That's how
yeah.
much he lost this season. So, yeah, I mean, he disappointed me a bit this season overall, if we talk about it. Now, moving from George to when we talk about the drivers, now moving towards the team. Which team disappointed you the most?
Alpine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Well, as far as I can remember, in my blind prediction before testing, I had Alpine as P4 and McLaren as P5.
Yeah, I remember.
Uh, and I thought, it's been so messy for years now. Um, all the bad elements are gone now. They've got a pretty decent lineup. This is their way up. Um, but I didn't expect more people to get kicked out because that guy Rossi, Laurent Rossi, who's been terrorizing Alpine for years, he's gone now.
Yeah,
There's nobody left. I don't think they even have
they don't
a
have a
team
team
principal at the
principal.
minute.
They don't have a technical director. Who makes the car next season? Who the fuck knows? I mean, look, there are things you do when you plan stuff. When you have a certain goal in front of you, you do things to ultimately reach a particular goal. I have zero clue what Alpine has done. They got rid of Otmar because he was very clear that we cannot be a champion within the next 2 years. What Alpine
Yeah,
has done in the meantime is they have thrown everything out of the water, and now I can sit here, I can put down my money that Alpine will not be a champion for the next 3 to 4 years because they've destroyed everything. Why did they do that? What's the result? What are they trying to achieve right now? They don't even
well,
have a fucking team principal. You don't have a team leader who is going to do anything.
it has all to do with the same problem Ferrari has, and that's you've got a
Top down
leadership
structure.
all the way up, and then you have the F1 leadership down here, and there's a gap between them,
Yeah,
and yeah,
I don't know. I don't understand it. I think apparently Binotto declined their offer. No, he was reached out,
yeah,
but I guess he didn't.
yeah. Like he wasn't going from Ferrari A to Ferrari B,
He wasn't
the
going
B spec
from. He
Ferrari.
wasn't going to the French Ferrari. What a joke! Honestly, what a joke. I look next season. Both Alpine drivers, their contracts
I'll
are up.
write this down.
Yeah,
Because it could get even worse for Alpine then.
next season,
They could be P6 or P7
easily, easily.
because Williams
Williams
will
will
make a
improve.
step
Alpha
up,
Tauri will improve.
and Racing Bulls,
Yeah, sorry, whatever that thing is. So
Racing Bulls,
Racing Bulls
Hugo
will
Boss
improve.
Bulls.
Oh god, I think really Alpine is going the direction that Williams went after 2014, 2015, where the car is just going down. There's no leadership, nothing. And apparently the I think what was it? They had sent a petition to have these engines normalized because apparently the Renault power unit is low on power. Even that has been rejected.
Yeah,
And then you have all these stupid celebrities pumping in money. I don't understand why they're doing that. It's
because it's
nonsense.
the only team open for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree that is entirely what's going on. Just sell the team to Andretti, let them do
yeah,
whatever they want because maybe they have a bit more ambition and direction and anything to actually get shit done because this team is a
yeah.
complete joke. Look, next season both Ocon and Gasly their contracts expire. I can guarantee
Okay.
you they will be running after every other team to just get out of Alpine. It's been a complete shit show.
Silly season's going to be wild in 25, 425.
Yeah, I'm. Oh god.
That's worth a podcast as well.
Yeah, I have it. I've thought about it because 9 or 10 drivers. that are out of contract.
Yeah, half
Half
of
the
them.
grid. I really hope Charles does not sign an extension in the winter right now before the season. I really hope he doesn't.
No,
There
Ferrari.
have been reports that apparently he's close to signing an extension. Apparently Carlos is also close to signing an extension. I hope they
Yeah,
don't. I don't want him at Ferrari. That team is, it's not
no,
good
but
for the heart to actually cheer for Ferrari or be a Ferrari fan.
um,
Yeah.
I can see Carlos leaving, but Charles is Ferrari,
Yeah.
and Ferrari is Charles.
It's not good for your health, man. I mean, I saw it with Vettel.
Yeah, I'm not that invested in
Hmm?
Ferrari or Leclerc I'm getting upset over them.
No, I feel bad about these talents. I think Vettel wasted his career's legacy by going to Ferrari. I think Alonso did that. I think Charles is also doing the same thing. Remember, just after Singapore, there were quite a few people.
But
Yeah, go ahead.
you know, well, I don't see a world champion going to a team and then not succeeding in that team as destroying your legacy.
It
You know,
does.
the achievements that you have are the achievements that you have,
Yeah, but he could have achieved more.
and yeah, but um, if Vettel had stayed with Red Bull, he wouldn't gone nowhere because Mercedes had the dominant car. So the only option for him to win more championships would have been Mercedes,
That might
and
have
that was
happened.
never.
Apparently, Vettel was approached after 2015 because Nico and Lewis were not getting along. Because he was such a huge Ferrari fanatic, he said no. Imagine a lineup in 2015 of Vettel and Hamilton. Just imagine what fireworks that would have been. Would have been a crazy
Yeah,
season.
10 championships for Vettel.
Ah. People will not be happy hearing that.
I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
Yeah.
No, of course.
I mean, I agree with you when it comes to being when it comes to the team that
But
disappointed me the most.
I think people are too quick to say, "Oh, he destroyed his legacy." I mean, Vettel retired as a hero after a shitty season at Aston Martin.
No, no, that way it's fine. How he destroyed his legacy is because people have this recency bias where they judge you on the how I
But
think,
yeah, but
yeah, on the 4 or 5 years with Ferrari,
that that
but they completely
that
forget.
just
Go ahead.
yeah, but that just takes time,
Oh
you
no, it
know.
doesn't. I'll be
No, but I
that is
mean,
one of
you
the
know,
reasons I hated what Ed Straw wrote about Vettel, because what he said was that Sebastian Vettel is a great world champion, but he's not elite. And look, I saw 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. There's again at that point in time in 2010. I think you've also seen that clip of David Coulthard claiming that Vettel will win the championship, and
hmm
the entire BBC crew laughing on his
hmm
face. And that was entirely the entire 2010 season, where if Vettel had better reliability, he would have won the championship with 3 to 4 races to spare. He had such poor reliability, and I used to feel very bad for him because it was clear after the first half of the season which driver was standing out, and Alonso was starting to pull that gap. But at the same time, both Lewis and Vettel, they weren't too far behind. They were able to keep in touch, and then you can see that these three drivers, they stand out in the entire grid. But always, because Alonso was the Spanish hero, Lewis was a British hero, they had plenty of fans and Vettel was booed. And that's how the 4 seasons went. Although, I think if you ask anyone, everyone will say that Vettel was probably the standout driver in 12, 13, to an extent 2011 as well. It was pretty good. But you look at his Ferrari run, and it gets muddled because I think uh, you're not a huge fan of Peter Winsor, I suppose.
Well, I'm not a technical YouTuber. That's not where my interests
Yeah,
are.
because there's one thing that he
And
actually
Peter
said.
Windsor,
Yeah,
I I've seen videos of him, and
his hot takes is what I'm talking about.
yeah, he's I think he says a lot of things just to wind people up, just completely
That's actually
ridiculous
not
things.
true. He actually says them by his heart, but they do end up winding people up. And
Yeah,
but there is one thing that he said quite a smart way, because he pointed out why Charles Leclerc in a Ferrari can never match with Max Verstappen, because he said that Max in Red Bull, his 100% focus is on driving the car. He does not need to worry that my pit stop would suck, my strategy will not be perfect. If something goes wrong, I have my team that will back me up. These are the things that Max does not have to worry about. Charles, on the other hand, he does not know how the pits will go. He does not know if the strategy will be fine. He does not know if the tires that he has, they are in perfect condition or not, and he does not know if the car would last the race or not. When you have these many things that you have to focus on.
no, I'd even go as far is that everybody is out on softs. He might be out on inters.
Yeah,
Oh no, was it the other way around?
something like this happened, no?
What was that race that he was the only one with green tires on?
I can't remember. I think it has happened a lot with Ferrari. It happened with Kimi in 2009. It happened with Seb as well in Turkey, probably, or some race. Ferrari has done this a lot, and that is something that
They
happened.
wanted to split the strategy.
Yeah,
So
and that is the
yeah,
disaster that happens, and that is why a driver that is having a campaign with Ferrari, he can never, he cannot take on an elite driver and an elite
yeah.
title challenge at all.
But things can change.
Yeah, they do.
When Jean Todt joined Ferrari, he brought Braun in and he brought Schumacher in, and you know
Yeah,
a change came, and maybe Fred Vasseur is doing that as well for
I
Ferrari.
hope so. And that's why
I
I'm
hope so
saying
too.
that Charles needs to give another year. He should wait it out for 2024, not sign the extension already. Wait it out for 24, see whatever
Yeah,
changes
but
is
I
made.
mean,
Yeah,
I think the same problems will be at all the other teams.
he could go to Mercedes,
Yeah, to replace Hamilton. What if he
Hamilton
stays
or
for another
George.
2 years?
He'll replace either of
Yeah,
them.
I
Toto,
don't see it happening.
yeah, it might not, but at least give himself an option. Maybe go to McLaren. Maybe both of them just implode. Maybe Norris and Oscar Piastri implode. My point is, why commit so early? Give yourself time.
Because Leclerc is Ferrari
But that's an entirely different thing. In case,
and Max is Red Bull.
yeah, I guess so. Now it does seem like that. I don't think Max is going to be going. He's going to any other team. I really don't see that happening.
No, and if he does, then he'll make damn sure that everything is in place for him
Uh, uh,
to have a competitive car and a competitive team.
yeah, and that's important as well. Yeah, I mean, I cannot deny that. By the way, when it comes to talking about the most disappointing team, I had the same one. I
Yeah,
Yeah,
Alpine. Yeah.
I won't be I won't be surprised if in 2024 Alpine is, it might have even slipped down to be a back marker. I will not be surprised. They don't have, if you do not have a team principal, you do not have a technical director. I Drivers can only do so much, right? So I don't know. That is one team that truly frustrated me a lot this season. Other than Haas, of course, but Haas has been on this path for forever.
So you think Alpine is going to be the shock of the season next season?
I think it will be Mercedes
Oh,
in in
okay.
in,
Well,
in the
we
positive sense.
we still need to talk about the shock of the season of this
Yeah, and
season.
that's what nice segue, by the way. So next up, talking about the shock of the season, which particular moment does it do you look back on when it comes to 23 season?
Well, I haven't got one particular race or anything,
Yeah,
but I wrote down the inconsistency of the following teams: Aston Martin, McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes. How they were all over the season, how they were up and down,
yeah,
and that's why none of them could really make a fist against Red Bull.
True. True.
Um, that's what shocked me the most, because I can't remember of the seasons that I watched that a team that started as ninth fastest team all of a sudden went second fastest, and I also don't remember a team being second fastest and then dropping away to fourth or fifth fastest like Aston Martin did.
Yeah.
It probably has everything to do with the ground effect cars
These are
that
actually, the regulations are still fresh, so that plays a lot. That means there is a lot of scope for improvement. That's where
yeah.
McLaren
And you
is.
see from 2014 to 2021 those regulations were like engine based
Yeah.
regulations,
Yeah.
um, so there wasn't much change going on there. But if you look at the times before
It
that,
happened in
you know
2009. McLaren also did that. McLaren did that in 2009 as well, because the car was slowest, apparently, slowest or second slowest in the first
but
race.
didn't that have to do with the double diffuser and
Yeah.
all that?
Yeah.
That took a few races before all the other teams had one as well.
True. That played a big role, and they got rid of the curves. They did, actually. The thing is, at that point in time, you could have in-season testing, and that helped. Now, and the budgets were unlimited. At that point
Yeah.
in time, Mercedes McLaren was a single entity, right? Because
Yeah.
Mercedes had, I think, 50% stake, so that
Hmm.
helped. McLaren was never short of money on that front, so that kind of helped. Okay, in my view, the biggest shock was, I think, Daniel Ricciardo returning. I did not expect that. That is something I, even in the wildest of dreams, I never thought that Daniel Ricciardo will come back mid-season, and secondly, he would be this strong with the limited mileage that he's had. I think, ignoring
But do
everything
you
else,
really think he's strong?
yeah, what he did in
Because
Mexico,
the last 2 3 races he hasn't impressed, coming in 12th, 11th,
no, that's
13th.
true. That's true. His race in Abu Dhabi was not good, and
I mean,
even in, I think,
I mean, years ago I would never have thought that Yuki Tsunoda would outperform Daniel Ricciardo.
no, that's true. That's true. But the thing is, something that
I'm
he,
actually penning. See, after this
Mhm.
podcast, I'm writing down a video about Daniel Ricciardo not making it into Red Bull next season,
Yeah, I don't think he will. I think I talked about it earlier in this
and
video
he
as well.
might never get there.
Yeah, I don't think he will. He can, and there's only one caveat that could play a role here, and that is the fact that, I think he talked about it a bit, that in Abu Dhabi, what happened was they introduced a new floor. Now, since Yuki has been a part of the team for forever, he kind of knew how to adapt to it. Daniel Ricciardo struggled with it a lot, and he said that when he moved the car balance a bit from Friday to Saturday, he just could not understand what was going on, and he struggled quite a lot because of that. Maybe with,
He's
yeah,
he's never been one uh, for the technical side.
no, that's
You
fine, but
know,
still, if you have mileage under you, it does help with the driving,
yeah,
right? And the true Daniel Ricciardo was what we saw in Mexico. I mean, that was a brilliant race from him. And if he can get back to that kind of form, because next season, what is it? Racing Bull? So Racing Bulls is going to be,
yeah,
it's going to be competitive. It's going to contest for points, because again, the association with Red Bull has increased. So that's going to be
yeah,
there. When that is the case, you can expect the car to be competitive. And when the car is competitive, the good drivers, they tend to showcase themselves a bit more. So if Daniel does come back, maybe it will depend on this. But yes, let's see.
but that was your biggest shock,
Yeah.
Daniel Ricciardo
Two
returning.
things. First, him returning. Second, the kind of media coverage he got. That was
Hmm.
crazy. I Only Lewis is a driver that can garner media like Daniel does. Other than these two, I have not seen anyone do that. Not even Max, not even Checo. They are just different level. And
Yeah,
it made sense. I think maybe that is also one reason why Racing Bull decided to keep him, because they're apparently short on
Yes,
money.
they are revamping the whole Alpha Tauri, the whole second team of Red Bull, and they need a couple of big sponsors to sort it out. And who better to to put on your product
The
than
smiling,
funny
the
smiling Daniel
yeah,
Ricciardo?
the honey badger, that's going to play a
Yeah,
big role. So yeah, moving on from that, I think this one is something. It was hard for me to pick a singular case, but again, let's go with you first. So, single best
I kept it
driver
simple. I
performance.
kept it simple.
Yeah.
The single best performance of the season is Sainz winning Singapore.
Hmm.
As far as I remember, he put it on pole,
Yeah.
and yeah, he never gave up the lead, which is pretty impressive with a strategy team like Ferrari. And he was chased down by pretty much
Everyone.
quicker cars,
Yeah.
and he kept it within the lines and won the race in a season where no other team won a race.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite a simple choice.
Look, so in my case, there were three choices that I had in front of me. The first was Charles at Vegas. That is the first one. Second was Alonso at Zandvoort. And the third was Gasly as well at Zandvoort, because they were quite impressive drives. Now, ultimately, I've gone with Alonso in Zandvoort because, and many people did not notice this thing. It was Alonso who called the shots when it comes to when he's going to pit, at what time he's going to pit, what tires, what the strategy is going to be, everything. While every other driver, including Max, including George, Lando, Lewis, name everyone, all of them messed that up. And it was just brilliant. I think the best part about this F1 TV subscription that I have found recently is that you get to hear what a particular driver is speaking and his onboards, and you can see it was Alonso making a difference. And especially when he came off, he had this poor run after Austria where the car was just not performing well, and he came to this particular race, and again I think he was started P5, P6, something like this. The car was better, but it was certainly not quicker than a Mercedes or a McLaren, for that matter, or maybe even a Ferrari. But Alonso got it done, and getting a podium in a car that should not be on a podium. I think I'll go with Alonso on that one. That was a very
Yeah,
impressive drive. And again, not many people noticed the fact that everyone got it wrong. Actually, Charles got it right. Ferrari was not ready, so that was one thing that happened. And yeah, even then, even on a wet track, he did not make a mistake when Sergio went straight on. A lot of things he did in that particular race. At 42, he is impressing. Brilliant, just brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah, I think next up, okay, yeah, one team to keep an eye on next season.
yeah. We already talked about that. I've got Williams.
In what sense? What do you expect?
They're seventh now, and they could be fifth next season. And
Fifth,
if they're fifth, then
who will they beat?
yeah, Alpine.
Alpine is already sixth.
Yeah, so they're gonna beat Alpine, and
So,
so that's one
yeah.
position, and then
Okay, look, the top five are Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren,
no,
Red
the
Bull,
top
Aston.
five are Red Bull,
Yeah.
Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren. Aston Martin is gonna drop off.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Dan follows. He can't follow anymore.
That's interesting. Okay. I think Mercedes is going to challenge Red Bull for the title next season, and I'll tell you why. First things, there are basically two factors that are going to play a role. There are four contenders that are in play right now. There's McLaren, there's Ferrari, there's Aston, and Mercedes. So when you take these four teams, When it comes to experience, Mercedes is the only team that has experience to battle Red Bull. Secondly, when it comes to having an understanding of when to start developing a car and when not to, something that was needed this season by all these teams. And in the sense, because everyone knew their concept was changing, and it was Mercedes that was probably one of the earlier teams that moved to the 2024 concept. That's what they said. Again, that's what they've claimed. Whether they're right or not, who the hell knows? But that is going to play a role. Again, when we'll keep that aside, there's one thing that we've forgotten. Both Aston Martin and McLaren, they are already on the Red Bull concept, right? They've already moved to the Red Bull concept in 2023. Mercedes is going to do that in 2024 because it was limited by the suspension structure in this season and they could not do that completely. Ferrari, on the other hand, is also going to do the same thing, but Ferrari has claimed it won't entirely move to the Red Bull structure. So there is only one team that is going to make the massive leap, and that is Mercedes. Also, there's this genius in Mercedes called James Allison, who has built some brilliant cars over the years. The Lotus of 2012 and 2013, some of the some of the best cars at that time. I think he can work in the entire grid. If there is anyone that can challenge Newey, it's Allison. That is all. No one else. And then you have the drivers. I think both George and Lewis are brilliant, at least on the face of it. So we might see these two battling it out. That's the team I'm keeping an eye on. Again, I'm being a bit hopeful,
I'll
slightly
tell
low.
you why you're wrong.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, in 2021, the floor regulations, Toto Wolff admitted that they messed it up,
Yeah.
and it took them 6-7 races to get it all sorted.
Mhm.
Then the floor regulations came in 2022, and they messed it all up. The W13 was terrible,
Mhm.
and then everybody was hyping up the W14. You know, all the prediction videos, you know, the blind prediction video that I did as well. It doesn't matter from F1 Reserve or F1, all the channels. I watched loads of them, and everybody said, "Oh yeah, Mercedes is going to take it to Red Bull,"
I
and I
did
was the
not.
only one that said
I
it.
did not.
I said, no, it's not
Yeah.
going to happen because there's something wrong with the development team within Mercedes, and that's because they've been relying on that super strong engine for all those years. So that is my reasoning why I don't see them making such a leap next season. I think it's going to be 2026 if Mercedes develops that new 50/50 engine. If they do that properly, then they'll be a contender again.
Yeah. Do you know there was one major difference between the 2020 Mercedes and the 2021 Mercedes? In the Mercedes team, there was one difference.
Yeah, James Allison
He was
he
not
stepped
there.
aside a bit
Yeah.
because his wife
Yeah.
died.
Yeah. So he was not there. He will be there this time around.
I think he was. Was he not still there in the background?
The what happens at Mercedes is the kind
I
of role
did.
that they
Did they
have.
not swap positions?
He
Mike
moved to
Elliott
the
and
CTO role, and Mike became the technical director. So the CTO roles means that you basically sit back at Brackley and do nothing. That was also why Mike was feeling a bit burnt out, and that's why he left. And he had moved more towards making those, whatever that thing is called for Ineos. So he was working primarily on that. And look, what I've seen from James, I've been very impressed throughout his career. In 2015, he joined Ferrari midway towards 2014, and we all remember that car was a shit show. Remember that ugly, disgusting car that they had that Alonso drove. James came to the team, and I think it was the second race that he had as the technical director, and Ferrari won, and they beat Mercedes at Sepang. he's he's quite good, at least when it comes to producing. I'm not going to say that he's going to help Mercedes beat Red Bull, but he'll close the gap, and he'll close the gap respectively, respect, so that it becomes a bit of a challenge at least. I'm expecting that, but who the hell knows? I mean, I fear that Red Bull. There are two things that I actually expect. I expect Red Bull to have a similar season to what they had this season, as in terms of performance advantage. The second thing is I expect maybe, if it's possible, Mercedes might end up challenging them. So let's see. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, we started this podcast talking about how many people left Mercedes.
I know, I know. Look, that is also a concern, and you cannot really shy away from that.
And I'm not saying that those people can be replaced, but if the whole vibe is that you'd rather join the powertrains of a competitor,
Hmm.
or you start working for another team, or you do completely something else, it just shows that they don't have a lot of trust in the
Tell me
process.
one thing. What's your view on the repeated criticism of the W14 from Toto, from Lewis, and Ted Kravitz, out of all people? What's your take on it?
But Mercedes is all PR. It's all public relations, and it's all what they bring out to the crowd or the audience. Red Bull have had underperforming cars as well,
Yeah,
and then you would see Max, and he would say, "Yeah, a podium was the maximum I could get out of this race, and I got it." Or, "Yeah, the way things were going in free practice, I'm happy with my P5 because Ferrari and Mercedes were
true.
quicker." And that was it. And that there was no bashing the RB16 or the RB15, or
Yeah,
you know,
I'm happy.
every
I'm
year you
happy. I'll
get
not
get
drive it
hoping.
again.
But I think there's put that Lewis winning an eighth title has is putting so much pressure on the Mercedes team, and that's why all these you know quotes about terrible cars and shit boxes, and I can't wait to see the end of the back of the
Yeah,
W14, and uh, that's where all that is coming from, because there's a fan base behind Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes that are urging
that kind of a
the team
narrative.
to give him a better car. If you know how Red Bull fans, or no, Lewis Hamilton fans, they've been busy for years bashing on Max Verstappen and Red Bull, but it's shifting now.
Now they're moving
So if
towards
Toto Wolff,
Mercedes.
yes, if you see a post from Toto Wolff celebrating something, it's like, give him a better car, give him a better car, give him a better car.
I saw
It's
it
like,
on
instead
LinkedIn.
of doing this, why don't you give him a better
Vibro,
car?
I saw it on LinkedIn, and I could not believe it. On LinkedIn, this kind of shit show is going on.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, the fans know no limit right now, and they'll do anything, any bloody
So
place.
LinkedIn, that's like a professional platform,
Yeah,
right? So if I'm looking for an Indian writer about sports,
yeah,
then I might find your
yeah,
LinkedIn.
yeah, yeah. And
So Toto Wolff is on LinkedIn,
yeah, I actually,
and people are leaving comments there.
it happened with Toto. It happened with one more Mercedes representative. I think it was Shovlin or someone else, and I was shocked. What the hell is going on? Why are you doing it on LinkedIn? But that's fans. I mean, who can? I, it's unfortunate. Look, in my view, I'm a bit disappointed with the way, especially with the way Toto has gone about catering to a single employee as compared to the entire group.
Hmm.
You cannot do that as a
Yeah, but
lead.
that's where the money is.
Look, that's where the money is, but that golden goose is going
Lewis
to,
Hamilton is the heart and soul of the whole Mercedes
and
franchise.
that's the stupidity from the team. Unless and
Yeah, I
until,
know.
look, you cannot, what Ferrari did in from 2000s, or whenever Michael was the part of the team. While Michael was the name that resonated with the entire sport, Ferrari was also something that grew as a brand. Mercedes has not at all. I mean, Germany is not even on the Formula One grid. What contribution has Mercedes made to Germany? And it's such a joke.
No, but I mean, you know, Mercedes is Brackley.
No, that is
That's why.
fine.
That's why they're
That is fine.
that's why
You
they're two English
just
drivers. That's why Ted Kravitz is a massive Mercedes
He's
fan,
not a massive
even though
Mercedes fan. He's a massive Lewis
even though.
Hamilton fan. That is all. And he's so
But
unprofessional, so unprofessional. You cannot do it like that. You cannot speak like that about a particular team. That was the second fastest car on the entire fucking grid, and you are how
no,
can
but did you see that kid that said you're Ted Kravitz, you're a Mercedes
yeah.
fan? He goes, no, I don't care about any of these teams.
Oh, you idiot.
I'm just here to report. Ah, you're a Mercedes fan. They go, you've got a you've got a Ferrari cap, so
Yeah.
you're a Ferrari fan.
What rubbish, man.
It was so childish.
Look, it's look, I've always thought that okay, fine, you can be a driver fan or whatever, but the thing is, say it upfront. I've seen a lot of when it comes to the Sky's German platform with Ralf Schumacher and others, they're quite blatant about it that okay, we favor this guy and all that. They're quite open about it. Sky Sports has made it a habit to come out and say we are neutral, and then they come out with shit like this. Crofty losing his head at the pit lane exit incident from Max. I could not believe it. I could not stop
Yeah,
laughing. What
but
the hell are why are
I
you so
I don't
frustrated?
want to hear a bad word about Crofty and Brundle.
No, Brundle is fine. Crofty losing his
No,
head
but I
there,
mean,
I could not
I
understand.
understood the sentiment. You know, it's a free practice in the last race of the season where Max has won pretty much every race already. Okay, he lost a bit of time because of the red flags. Then he starts overtaking and pushing and going like
Yeah, yeah.
a
No,
bit
no, that's fine.
a bit hysterical to pass people. I agreed that it looked
It looked silly.
over the
It
top.
looked
It looked
silly.
silly and over the top.
Exactly. He didn't
Yeah.
need to do it.
And then the worst thing was that when he had the space, then he started
Just
slowing down to create space.
and ju-
So he could have stayed. He could have stayed where he
yeah.
was.
No, the thing is, you know what he was doing? He was making a point. That was what he was
Yeah.
doing. And that is what he's been doing since the whole delta thing has come in. The time delta thing has come in. He's
Yeah.
making a point. He made it a point by stopping in the pit lane for 10 to 15 seconds or whatever it was. And he's doing it again. And you,
He actually didn't stop. He just kept rolling really
yeah.
slowly. It's like, what? I didn't stop.
Oh, God. And you know who used to do it in the past? It was Michael Schumacher. He used to do that. He used to find these holes. And always used to wonder because his start is, I think Seb ended up copying this. His starts used to be this. He would always place his car right in front of his competitor, the one who's starting right
Hmm.
alongside him. And always, it's a bit like there are inches away from him wiping the front wing off. And he'll do it every time just as an act of intimidation.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if I had to bring rules in place to stop him from doing that, then there were rules, just like in case of Max, moving under braking, stuff like this. There were no rules for that, and that is how smart these drivers are. They read the
Hmm.
entire rule book, they find the hole, and they exploit it every time. And that was what Max was doing. He was just making a point, that's all. He knew he's won the race, he knew he's won the title, he knew everything is sealed. He's just having fun. It was super silly, I understand that. But when
But you're saying that the reaction of Crofty was over the top.
he said stewards need to look into this, and that was entirely an
Mm,
impulsive reaction of someone who is
yeah.
frustrated watching Max win. That was nothing else. You know why? You know why I
Yeah.
know that?
I do.
You know why I know that?
I
Because
do agree.
within a split second, he realized that he was wrong, and he said, "But Max is not doing anything wrong." Within a split second, he realized that okay, I've let my emotions get on top of the whole thing.
But
Yeah.
I quite like that. See, when I'm putting on a multi-viewer, I can choose from what do you call him? Alex Jake,
Mhm.
and who else is sitting there in
Alex
the
Jake and
F1
Will Buxton.
TV?
No, no, sorry. Palmer,
Will Buxton
Jolien
does.
Palmer.
Yeah. Um, I always choose Brundle and Crofty.
Yeah, in terms of
The international feed.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's fine.
And also because I want to get a little bit annoyed by the way they present things
Look,
sometimes.
until and unless I know that there's not going to be any battle involving Max and Lewis, I'll be more than happy to watch the Sky feed. But when I know there's going to be something like this, look, the it's not professional. I think in 2021
No,
pretty much
but
turned me
but
off.
you know how I decide on my videos.
Hmm.
I see a narrative that goes around on Twitter
Yeah,
and from the commentary, and things that are alive. And if I don't agree with it, then that inspires me to make a
yeah,
video.
yeah.
I don't know if you've seen my 2021 floor regulations video. How
2021
uh,
floor regulations. How? Yeah, I think
that
I have. Where Toto had claimed that this was done specifically
to
to.
hamper
Yeah,
them. Yeah,
true.
and that's a narrative that on Twitter, when you're discussing something
Yeah,
with a Mercedes fan, they'll say, yeah, they tried to stop Mercedes with the floor regulations because they knew low rate cars would be hampered
no
by
one knew
that.
that.
No. So, and then I'm making this video, and obviously I doubt very little Mercedes fans will click on it, but in my own echo chamber, it does okay.
Look, in my view, I'll be honest. When I'm making the video, I've changed my emphasis. Now I'm not trying to present a point of view. I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to present a few data sets. These are in front of you. This is what they represent. Now you go ahead and make your opinion. I'll just leave
Mm,
it at that. Because
yeah.
look, I even
But
if
I need to be passionate to put in 10 hours of editing for a 10-minute video.
oh yeah, that's true.
Uh, so it needs to be. If I start making videos like, oh, that's a nice news article, yeah, let me squeeze that into a video, I'll get 300 views.
No, that's true. That's true. But the thing is, at the end of the day, it should be fun, man. Everything that you
Yeah.
do, unless it's not giving you money, it should be fun. At least that's what I've
Well,
always.
I'm getting a little bit money now.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about in general. If you're
I made $3.81 already.
ah, look at you. No, that's the fun part, man. I mean, I'll always suggest grow your community, have fun. It's a sport at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're nearing the end of it. Final thing, the team that you're most, whose prospects you're most worried about for the 2020-24 season.
Yeah. Well, I
We've
see
touched on
the
it a
with
bit.
the F1 teams, with the 10 teams we have now, they've all had like rocky times, bad times.
Hmm.
Haas has been terrible in 2021, and then climbed up a little bit, and now they're last again.
Yeah,
I don't see them dropping away because of
Ferrari. Yeah,
finances. Hmm?
yeah.
So, like 10, 15 years ago, new teams would come along all the time, and then the finances weren't in order, and it had to be taken over. Force India became Racing Point, and all those things. Yeah, these struggling teams, you don't see that anymore,
Yeah.
and that's why I like having 10 teams, 10 solid teams, so
Okay.
you don't have the chaos of teams leaving, and teams not making it to testing, and so I'm not worried about any of the teams. If you ask me which teams are going to be terrible next season, it's going to be Haas and Alfa Romeo, because or Sauber,
Who the hell knows? But
because
yeah, again, yeah,
because because Sauber, they're waiting on Audi to take over, so they're barely going to put 200 million in that. You know.
yeah. But Audi will be. I think it will have 50% stake now by the end of this season. Yeah,
Okay.
it already has 25%. By the end of this season, it will
I,
have
I so
50%.
the name is going to be changed in 2026.
Name will be changed in 2026 because you cannot have Audi, Sauber, Ferrari because the power unit is from Ferrari. So that's why
Oh,
they'll
okay.
hold off until 2026 to change the name. And
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think I would have touched on Alfa Romeo as well. Sorry, Sauber as well. Earlier, when it comes to being a disappointment, But I think I'm slightly worried about that team because it's a huge German operation that is supposed to be, driving this thing forward. Apparently, the power unit is already lagging behind if we go by what
Mm.
Helmut Marko is saying. Second thing is,
Helmut Marko. Okay.
second thing is, and something that actually slightly worried me and slightly confused me as well. Why do they have a Valtteri Bottas and a Joe Guan Yu as a driver lineup when this team is going to be Audi in the future?
But because you need to put two drivers
No,
in.
why not go for a Formula 2 champion that you've actually nurtured? Theo Porcher,
Well,
that is one.
Bottas has experience,
No, in case of
and
against Joe.
Joe Guan Yu brings along 30 million euros
No, he
dollars.
does. But for a team that's going to be funded by Audi, that 30 million is not the key thing. No, growing the team
Yeah,
is
but
right.
so you're saying um, that because Audi is going to be 50% stakeholder next season,
They will have the
they could
rights.
have put in a youngster
They could have put in a youngster. They could have put in
like Theo
any better
Porcher.
driver. My concern is they could have put in any better driver in that team because again, coming back to the driver ratings that I do, every time when I've done the driver ratings this season, I've had to go back and actually look at where Bottas qualified and where he finished, where Joe qualified and where he finished. I don't think there's been any team that has been more invisible than Alfa Romeo this season. It's been such a dull team, and you think that this team is going to be Audi. There's
They had
nothing.
some nice liveries.
Who cares? I mean, you can't. I really don't care. Honestly, it's been a shite season, and if you have to focus on liveries to ultimately garner attention, then
Yeah, but
just
that black and gold in Vegas, that was awesome.
it's okay. I mean, it looked like
And in Zandvoort, I saw one with all these. Yeah,
a bit
they look
different.
like
Yeah, it
hmm?
was a bit different. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing is, if just put that money into making the car faster, no? I mean,
Mm.
it's a shit car. Look, it's a shit car with drivers that don't inspire confidence. And that, and look, even at Haas, Hulkenberg was putting that car in Q3, and you at least knew that Haas was doing something, even though you knew it will
Do
not.
you really want to end up a podcast on such a low note? You
Oh
know.
man, yeah. You tell me. Okay, so finally, just to sum this up, finally, just to sum this up,
Okay,
yeah, go ahead.
how many race winners are we gonna have next season?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Max, Checo. Oh God, Charles. That's three. Lewis, George.
Aldo, Lando's first win.
Okay, go with six. Either of Lando or Oscar will win a race.
Yeah, well, I think Saints gonna win one as well, and Piastri
Yeah, that's what. Oh,
and Alonso.
yeah.
So we're gonna have 9 winners.
If we have nine winners in a
It's
20
gonna be the best season
ever.
ever.
You've seen the 2012 season
Um, yeah, only
in highlights.
yeah.
So we had seven winners in first seven races. That season was nuts, and even Pastor Maldonado won a race. So I mean, yeah, that's a crazy season. So yes, I think 10-9. Imagine if we have nine. Look, add Lance Stroll as well. No, why would you? Why are you leaving him out? And while you're at,
Why am I leaving Lance Stroll out?
look,
Well,
I've always wondered that why this happens. But yes, yeah, I think. Look, when it comes to the next season, I'm slightly worried that Max and Red Bull will dominate again. That's my primary worry. But if there is one team that I think might challenge them overall, not only in terms of car performance, I think it will be Mercedes.
okay.
Right? So with that, on that bombshell, uh thanks Bimbo. Thanks for being here. Had a good time. It's been a while since we did this. In the winter break, we might do a few more. I'll be honest.
In August, we had our last podcast, I
See
think.
how it's been a while. 4 5 months.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you can come on one of my live streams on Friday
sure.
in a couple of weeks.
In a couple
Because
of
I'm
weeks.
gonna keep doing that through all the through the winter.
Yeah,
I'll find it. I'll find something
just
to
let me
chat
know.
about.
I might take a break. I mean, I might go on a holiday or something for a couple of
Yeah,
days.
well, there's no pressure because I could do it on my own as well.
Oh yeah, no,
But
I'll come. I'll come whenever you ask.
it's nice if somebody pops on and distracts everything a little bit.
Yeah,
You know.
I'll do that. I'd
Yeah.
love to. So yeah, okay. Thanks for being here, man. So this was the review
No
for the
problem.
2023 F1 season. To anyone who just stuck around and who's just popping in, like the video, subscribe, drop a comment, tell me who was your driver of the season other than Max, who was your biggest disappointment other than George.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching and see you next time.
Bye bye.